In the outside world, all of the tentacles of the moon-gazing beast shattered from their roots, transforming into countless towering moon-gazing forms. This sight made the 6 elders around gasp in shock. Yin Lazy's eyes flickered, and without hesitation, he formed hand seals, summoning countless treasures made from fragments of the immortal realm that instantly surrounded him, floating in midair. At the same time, with a low roar from Yin Lazy, strange forces rapidly spread out from these fragments. Each fragment possessed powerful spirituality. As they scattered, they quickly began to rotate, enveloping the main body of the moon-gazing beast along with countless smaller versions of itself, violently spinning and forming a massive vortex that spread across the heavens and stars. The elder from the Xun'er family in a red robe waved his sleeves, immediately causing the enormous octagonal formation shrouding the moon-gazing beast to collapse with a loud bang, transforming into countless smaller formations that enveloped each of the small moon-gazing forms. Amidst the booming thunder and fire, they madly descended. The elder from the Xun'er family swayed, settling into a meditative posture in the sky with his legs crossed, dividing his mind into countless parts to merge with each formation. The 4 young disciples tightly surrounded the moon-gazing beast, with the heavenly spirit crimson pills repeatedly emitting loud popping sounds, linking together to seal off all of the moon-gazing beast's escape routes. Lai Yunzi from the Zhan family, with his eyes flashing coldly, brandished a silver light and instinctively pierced through the blockade of the young disciples, dangerously approaching the countless small forms of the moon-gazing beast. His movements were too swift, the silver light flashed, and the attack was already unleashed. However, none of these attacks had any effect against the furious ancient god finger emitted by the moon-gazing beast. Countless moon-gazing entities collectively unleashed the ancient god fingers, frantically striking outwards. Boom, boom, boom. The continuous deafening sounds echoed, especially as the ancient god finger formed before the main body of the moon-gazing beast seemed to represent a force capable of splitting open the heavens, landing directly on the areas sealed by the 4 young disciples' crimson pills. One of the young disciples immediately turned pale, spewing a mouthful of fresh blood, as cracks began to form in the crimson pill on his heavenly spirit, releasing a dense red mist that quickly filled the surroundings. At the same time, another young disciple facing him also turned pale, his body swayed and immediately became listless. However, a red light flickered intensely between his eyebrows, and this red light burst forth, merging into the heavenly spirit crimson pill. As the red light left the young disciple, his physical body exploded with a loud bang. The elder from the Xun'er family had deployed numerous octagonal formations, but under the impact of the many ancient god fingers, they crumbled with ease. The elder in red robes, seated cross-legged, was now bleeding from the corner of his mouth. Yin Lazy's eyes turned red. With a low growl, he changed his hand seals, and the fragments of the immortal realm soared in size in an instant, as if an inexhaustible power surged within them. Almost in the blink of an eye, the surrounding area, spanning countless miles, resembled the re-emergence of the thunder immortal realm. Looking around, every direction around the moon-gazing beast was filled with fragments of the immortal realm. These fragments, connected by arcs of lightning, surrounded the moon-gazing beast while violently compressing inward. At this moment, the entire northern Luo heaven region was violently shaking, as if the starry sky were on the verge of collapsing. My fellow Taoists, help me seal this beast. Yin Lazy's voice thundered like the breaking of dawn, resonating powerfully. He stretched out his arms, bulging veins on his forehead, as he exerted all his cultivation. A trace of primal energy surged from Yin Lazy's body, and though it was but a flicker, it caused the encircled moon-gazing beast to show signs of panic in its eyes. It remembered, a long time ago, a dreadful voice in its memory warned of similar energy, though that voice's presence had been far more intense. Even back when it heard that warning, the terrifying tremor it felt was recalled in this moment, resonating with the energy emanating from Yin Lazy. It recalled feeling this energy when it sensed its return to a time of mindlessness within the ancient god's body. A fierce roar erupted from the moon-gazing beast, its massive body writhing furiously. Strange whisperings echoed within its growl, and in an instant, all the ancient god fingers deployed by the surrounding moon-gazing entities fused into the main body. As countless ancient god fingers blended together, the finger that formed before the main moon-gazing body ceased to be an illusion and instead seemed to exist in reality. With rough skin marked by shattering symbols, the ancient god finger appeared in a tangible state before the colossal moon-gazing beast. With a roar, it pressed down. The three young disciples outside the moon-gazing beast offered no resistance. In the moment the ancient god finger came crashing down, they exploded with a loud bang. Their heavenly spirits' crimson pills shattered in an instant, dispersing into vast clouds of red mist. The seal vanished, and the moon-gazing beast roared as they surged out. At that moment, Patriarch Xun'er took a step forward, his body crackling with thunder. In an instant, a vast force of thunder formed, transforming into thunder dragons that roared, blocking the way. It was as if the entire northern Luo heaven region was shaking. The deafening sound of rumbling reverberated through the starry sky, and even the surrounding space began to collapse in large areas. 100,000 miles away, the defensive forces made up of Thunder Immortal Palace emissaries were also affected by the collapsing starry sky, creating a gap that was quickly covered by thunderous light. At the same time, the ghostly creatures formed by the five-colored Taoist supernatural powers let out sharp screams and charged towards the moon-gazing beasts to attack. The middle-aged man in the black robe from the Xun'er clan followed closely behind the five-colored Taoist, transforming into a giant eagle. He opened his mouth and expelled a large bell. The bell was ethereal, covering the giant eagle. As the eagle soared out, a resounding bell toll echoed. This bell contained immense power. As the sound echoed, the collapsing starry sky intensified, immediately swirling back and violently charging towards the moon-gazing beast. However, these attacks immediately collapsed under the almost solidified ancient god finger. First, Yunzi from the Zhan clan, holding a silver sword, collided with the ancient god finger. A series of loud bangs erupted from his body as he spat out a mouthful of blood and quickly retreated. Yet, after retreating over 10 zhang, Yunzi's eyes flared with uncontrollable rage. He did not retreat any further, but instead charged forward once again. His cultivation was exceptionally high, and though he was not killed under the power of the ancient god finger, his nascent soul was damaged. The ancient god finger did not stop. It pointed forward again. Elder Xiang in the red robe growled, his entire body resembling blood clouds that spread out and formed an octagonal red formation, clashing with the ancient god finger. At this very moment, the ghostly creatures formed by the five-colored Taoist supernatural powers charged out, transforming into a large cloud of black mist as they neared the ancient god finger, as if attempting to devour it. Patriarch Xun'er acted without hesitation. With his hands forming a seal, a point at his brow triggered a rapid gathering of thunder dragons, and in a moment, his body transformed into a massive thunderbolt with a diameter of 10 zhang. Moving at a speed beyond the human eye's ability to track, it directly collided with the ancient god finger. The Xun'er clan's black-robed man, in the form of the giant eagle, did not slow down. As everyone faced the ancient god finger, the eagle rushed out swiftly, and as the tolling of the bell echoed, it collided head-on with the ancient god finger. The combined strength of 5 peak experts from the Luo Tian star domain formed a power that could destroy any cultivation star. It would be easy to obliterate the northern Luo heaven region with their united might. At this moment, their supernatural powers formed a storm that could blow away nothingness itself. The storm was so powerful that even the Thunder Immortal Palace emissaries, 100,000 miles away, changed their expressions. Some of the cultivators with lower cultivation levels, such as deficiency cultivators, turned pale and coughed up blood from the storm's aftermath. The storm howled and collided with the nearly materialized ancient god finger. Boom! A massive explosion echoed throughout the entire northern Luo heaven region, resonating with deafening force. Yunzi, now drenched in blood, was violently thrown out, his body emitting a constant stream of blood mist. The black-robed man from the Xun'er clan, whose transformed giant eagle shattered, along with the bell, was also sent spiraling. Patriarch Xun'er's body creaked as he staggered backward, his face pale as he vomited blood in large quantities. Elder Xiang's octagonal formation shattered as well, and he seemed to wilt, stumbling backward with no color in his face. Among the 5, the one most severely injured was the weakest cultivator, the 5-colored Taoist. His supernatural power was broken, and his body trembled violently. He repeatedly spat blood, quickly retreating without hesitation. All 5 were heavily injured. The ancient god finger, too, collapsed under the combined supernatural powers of the five. The clash of such intense supernatural powers formed a shockwave like a furious tide, spreading outward from the center. The starry sky continued to collapse with thunderous rumbles, and the ripples surged rapidly, tearing apart the space. Within 100,000 miles, the shockwave reached in an instant. Several abandoned cultivation stars were shattered in the blink of an eye by the wave. 100,000 miles away, the Thunder Immortal Palace emissaries spat blood, no longer able to sit cross-legged and seal themselves. They were sent flying backward by the force. Even further out, the two formations of red and black-robed cultivators were similarly affected. They turned pale and retreated, seeking shelter. At this moment, inside the moon-gazing beast's body, Wang Lin's ancient god infant in front of him trembled violently. The tentacles wrapped around it seemed to go wild, rapidly consuming the infant. A star on its forehead shattered with a loud boom. After the star shattered, a massive force was drawn away by the tentacles. The ancient god's eyes glowed with an eerie light as a complex muttering came from its mouth. It immediately separated a fragment of the star-shattering power, forming an ancient-looking teleportation array in front of the moon-gazing beast. "My kin, quickly, bring my true kin here." Wang Lin remained silent, gazing deeply at the extremely weak ancient god infant. With a single step, he entered the teleportation array and vanished from sight. Taking advantage of the obstruction caused by Lai Yunzi and the others, Yin Lazy's eyes flashed. He drew his arms forward, forming a vortex, and shouted lowly, "Seal." Countless massive fragments of the immortal realm exploded with a thunderous roar, rushing from all directions towards moon-gazing beast. In the midst of moon-gazing's roar, its massive body collided forward frantically, its fury burning through its entire being. The sense of danger from Yin Lazy above only made it more berserk, almost driving it mad. At the moment of impact, suddenly moon-gazing's entire body shook. It stopped all movement, its eyes filled with intense fear, staring straight ahead. In the starry sky where moon-gazing was focused, everything had already collapsed. Amidst the cold winds, a figure emerged. This figure was extremely blurred, and it was impossible to make out their appearance. Only one thing was clear, it was a man. His ethereal form moved with ease, stepping slowly from the void. The moment this figure appeared, the severely wounded Lai Yunzi and the others in the distance instantly changed their expressions. Even Lai Yunzi, known for his arrogance, froze for a moment. But as soon as he regained his composure, immense waves stirred in his heart, and his eyes revealed an expression of deep respect. "It's him." Yin Lazy actually invited him. The other four also immediately changed their expressions, bowing in respect. After the appearance of the ethereal figure, Yin Lazy's eyes gleamed with intense joy. With a single step, the figure moved towards moon-gazing. At that moment, moon-gazing's enormous body trembled, as if the figure before it exuded an aura capable of inducing fear. Moon-gazing slowly retreated. Meanwhile, millions of miles away in the starry sky, Wang Lin's figure leapt out from the ripples of space. Upon his appearance, he immediately turned back, his eyes filled with contemplation. The sudden change in moon-gazing must have a reason. Could someone have launched an attack on it? The ancient god infant inside moon-gazing might allow me to bear its inheritance. Too bad I'm far away in the Alliance star domain. If I were closer, I could have tried. But, I wonder, is the ancient god infant truly sincere in passing on the inheritance? Or is it attempting to use a technique similar to a cultivator's soul possession? This requires careful thought. I must not act rashly. Regardless, now that I've left moon-gazing, I'm sure no one will detect my presence in the short term. Wang Lin's gaze flickered. He turned and transformed into a streak of light, rushing forward. Ripples formed beneath his feet, and in a short time, his figure melded with the heavens and disappeared. The northern Luo heaven region, located extremely far from where moon-gazing was nearly at the opposite ends of the universe, with Azure Spirit Star being at the boundary. On this day, outside Azure Spirit Star, ripples spread through the starry sky. Wang Lin's figure emerged from within, gazing ahead at the familiar cultivation star, his eyes filled with a sense of nostalgia. "Finally, I'm back." Wang Lin stepped forward, his body like a long rainbow, shooting straight toward Azure Spirit Star. However, just as he neared, several powerful auras suddenly surged from the star, filled with hostility, sweeping toward him. Wang Lin furrowed his brow, but quickly relaxed. The divine senses immediately locked onto Wang Lin, and upon recognizing his identity, they dissipated. Moments later, more than 10 figures appeared like shooting stars. As Wang Lin descended, they rushed toward him. Almost in an instant, as Wang Lin stepped onto Azure Spirit Star, more than 10 members of the chosen immortal clan, led by the Ancestor Elder, arrived through spatial movement. Upon seeing Wang Lin, the Elder's face lit up with excitement as he spoke. Benefactor. Wang Lin glanced at the Elder and the members of the chosen immortal clan behind him, smiling and nodding slightly. How has the journey been for you all? The Elder took a deep breath and said, Benefactor, the journey was smooth. However, along the way, we heard that a cultivation family by the name of Yao from the Luotian Star Domain has placed a bounty on your head. Wang Lin shook his head. That matter is already in the past. No need to mention it. Since you have come here, you should stay well on Azure Spirit Star. I will be in seclusion for several months. Prepare proper defenses. The Elder nodded quickly. Wang Lin's figure flickered, and without another word to the chosen immortal clan, he vanished, reappearing on Hangyan Peak. The mountain was exactly as he had left it, without the slightest change, and the cave residence was still there. Upon entering the cave, Wang Lin immediately activated the surrounding formation, sealing off the entire region within 1,000 miles of Hengyun Mountain. He then sat cross-legged and began to meditate. Several hours later, the outside world had fallen into the quiet of deep night. Stars dotted the sky, casting their light upon the land in peaceful silence. Moonlight streamed through the cave's entrance, casting a soft glow upon the ground, creating a beautiful scene. Wang Lin opened his eyes, exhaling a breath of stale air. Since leaving the Thunder Immortal realm, he had been extremely exhausted. Even when within moon-gazing, he had only been able to relax marginally. But now, on his own cultivation star, Wang Lin completely relaxed. As he raised his gaze to the sky outside his cave, he appeared immersed in thought. After a long while, he withdrew his gaze and muttered to himself, The pursuit from the Yo family will not cease. Time is not on my side. Lost in thought, Wang Lin tapped his storage pouch, and immediately, the Grand Cauldron appeared. An ancient aura spread from the cauldron. Wang Lin's gaze flickered as he opened his mouth, releasing his essence and spirit energy, which immediately enveloped the cauldron, beginning the ritual of refinement. The longer the refining process, the greater its power will be, Wang Lin muttered. But for now, I must study it carefully. With a thought, he inhaled, and the cauldron shrank into a long rainbow, which Wang Lin swallowed whole. A flicker appeared behind him as Tower Mountain stepped out, sitting cross-legged beside him. Tower Mountain, severely injured, looked somber. After sitting down, he closed his eyes and began healing himself under Wang Lin's mental control. After a brief silence, Wang Lin tapped his storage pouch again. In an instant, Yao Bingyun, who had been sealed in layers of enchantments, appeared in front of Wang Lin with a flash of light from the pouch. Around Yao Bingyun's body, the Kunji whip circled, and she was wrapped in the soul banner, with hundreds of thousands of golden runes sealing her. Wang Lin's eyes flashed coldly as he fixed his gaze on the sealed Yao Bingyun. He formed a seal with his right hand, and a finger pointed toward her brow. Instantly, the golden rune seals around her body rose one by one, spreading throughout the area, turning the entire cave into a golden sea. Under the rune seals was the soul banner. Wang Lin's right hand reached into the air, and vast black mist poured from Yao Bingyun's body, engulfing the area. This revealed her delicate figure completely. At this moment, Yao Bingyun's clothes were torn in several places, giving her an alluring appearance that was hard to ignore. Her eyes were tightly closed, her face ashen, as if her life force could extinguish at any moment. However, within her body, a vast primordial energy still lingered, though it was in a separated state, unable to merge with her spirit. Wang Lin gazed at Yao Bingyun, lost in thought. Refining this woman into an immortal guard is one option. But before that, I must use her power. Wang Lin's eyes flashed with a cold light as he raised his right hand, forming a sword with his fingers. In an instant, he struck her forehead. Wang Lin's primordial energy surged and entered Yao Bingyun's body through his fingertip. Inside her, his energy twisted into a vortex. As soon as the vortex appeared, it immediately began absorbing some of the primordial energy that had been separated within her, making the vortex grow larger. Wang Lin proceeded with caution, and as the vortex absorbed more energy, it approached a point where it would be uncontrollable. In that moment, he took a deep breath. Yao Bingyun's body trembled violently, and her tattered clothes fluttered as if blown by the wind. At the same time, the vortex inside her body began to surge from her 7 orifices, spreading a thick cloud of primordial energy into the surroundings. Without a second thought, Wang Lin opened his mouth and swallowed the energy that was pouring from Yao Bingyun's orifices, turning it into smoke-like threads as he drew it in. As the energy entered his body, Wang Lin's eyes brightened with a brilliant glow. His complexion flushed slightly. His spirit immediately began to integrate the absorbed energy, rapidly strengthening him. Time passed slowly. Outside the cave, the sky gradually welcomed the first rays of the sun. The sunlight fell onto the ground, dispelling the cold of the night and warming the earth. Inside the cave, Yao Bingyun lay on the ground, and the sunlight illuminated her, creating a dazzling and radiant display. In that moment, her beauty was indescribable, though it carried a sense of sorrow and ethereal melancholy. Wang Lin's spirit had not rested at all during the night, as if in a frenzy, constantly devouring and assimilating the incoming primordial energy, transforming it into his own strength. During this process, his injuries healed, and as the first rays of sunlight touched the ground, Wang Lin's spirit fully recovered. Moreover, with the refinement of Yao Bingyun's energy, his spirit became even more refined. Exhaling a grayish mist into the air, Wang Lin opened his eyes. Without hesitation, he raised his right hand again, forming two fingers into a sword and pointing them directly at Yao Bingyun's forehead. The energy flowed into Yao Bingyun's body once again, forming another vortex to continue absorbing the energy that had been separated within her. Absorbing all her energy should greatly increase my cultivation. With only the comprehension of intent, I can truly step into the second step and glimpse nirvana. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed with an unusual light as he stared at Yao Bingyun. Once the vortex within her reached its peak, he would drain it completely. This process was known to very few, but the result would shock all Luo Tian cultivators. In no time, the Thunder Immortal Palace's reputation reached its peak, overshadowing several ancient cultivation families, becoming an overwhelming force in the Luo Tian star domain. Riding this wave of momentum, the grand event to seal the 108 Immortals, as well as the legendary Heavenly Star Warriors and Earthly Star Warriors, was about to unfold. The Immortal realm collapsed, and the Immortals fell, but in the generations to come, there would still be true Immortals. The seal of the Thunder Immortal Palace was the Thunder Immortal realm, and the Immortals of the future. Any who were listed among the 108 Immortals, their family would be recognized as an immortal clan. They would exist forever. In the battle with the Alliance Star Domain, all Immortals could become leaders of one faction, and their families would receive their own cultivation stars. The sealing of Immortals by the Thunder Immortal Palace had long been rumored, but it was only now that it truly began. In an instant, the cultivators of the entire Luo Tian star domain went into a frenzy. The direct descendants of each cultivation family set out one after another. Due to the overwhelming number of candidates vying for immortality, the Thunder Immortal Palace announced that the four major star domains of Luo Tian, East, West, South, and North, would each be designated as a separate immortal sealing zone. Within each region, the Thunder Immortal Palace would send people to select 108 powerful individuals to participate in the final battle to seal the Immortals. The area within a radius of 100,000 miles around the Thunder Immortal Palace was declared a forbidden combat zone, where all private fights were prohibited. Anyone who violated this would face the annihilation of their entire clan. The day of sealing Immortals was set for 4 months later. If this news had already created a storm, then the subsequent announcement by the Thunder Immortal Palace was like a world-shattering event. When the 108 Immortals were selected, the Thunder Immortal Palace would open a passage to the Alliance Star Domain, and the Alliance War would begin. The entire Luo Tian Star Domain was engulfed in a fervor, with all cultivators preparing, waiting for the sealing of Immortals, and then to charge into the Alliance. A dense atmosphere of killing intent permeated the entire Luo Tian Star Domain. Amidst all this, Wang Lin was unaware. He had been in seclusion in his cave for 10 days now. During these 10 days, he had been constantly absorbing the primordial energy within Yao Bingyun's body. Through continuous refining and integration, he slowly turned the massive energy of heaven and earth from Yao Bingyun's mid-stage glimpse of nirvana into a part of himself. To Wang Lin, Yao Bingyun had become like an excellent tonic, steadily boosting his cultivation as he absorbed her primordial energy. The energy within Yao Bingyun was vast, and after 10 days, Wang Lin had only absorbed 30% of it. After refining 30% of Yao Bingyun's primordial energy, Wang Lin took a step forward, reaching the peak of the Yang fulfillment stage, now only a step away from glimpse of nirvana. However, this step was like a deep chasm, not a matter of insufficient primordial energy, but of lacking insight into the Tao of heaven and earth and the changes in conceptual realms. The realm of causality is much more profound than the cycle of life and death, yet it is nearly impossible to comprehend. Causality. Causality. Wang Lin fell silent, a trace of confusion in his eyes. Everything in this world is bound by causality. It is everywhere. But all of this is an illusion. Trying to grasp its underlying threads is like seeing the moon through mist, unable to discern the truth. After refining a trace of Yao Bingyun's primordial energy into his own, Wang Lin let out a long breath, his gaze falling on Yao Bingyun. Causality. Back then, when I obtained the heaven-defying pearl, that was the cause. Meeting Situnan was the effect. I killed Tingli, that was the cause. Teng Huayuan killed my parents, that was the effect. Likewise, Teng Huayuan's actions were also a cause, and I exterminated his Tung clan, which was the effect. These causes and effects are intertwined, and what is a cause today may become someone else's effect tomorrow. Wang Lin furrowed his brow, the confusion in his eyes growing deeper. The concept of causality contained too much, and to this day, he still couldn't fully grasp it, far beyond the clarity of the cycle of life and death. Understanding the conceptual realm cannot be forced. Without a sudden enlightenment, it's difficult to fully perceive the threads. Wang Lin sighed inwardly and gave up on his contemplation. While the concept of causality seemed simple, the true understanding of it was exceedingly complex. But I do understand a little. Once cultivation reaches a certain point, progress becomes difficult. Primordial energy plays a role, but more importantly, it is one's own insight. Wang Lin bitterly smiled. How can the realm of causality be improved? The understanding is incredibly difficult. Even if I understand more, it is still an illusion, not real. But how can I make this path of causality become real? Wang Lin sighed deeply, wanting to stop thinking about it, but his mind still lingered on the matter. Back in the land of demon spirits, with the help of the ancient demon Bailuo, I once entered that strange state and deduced the flaws of the slaughter immortal art. Wang Lin muttered to himself, suddenly his eyes sharpened. In that state, it seemed like I could see through all the paths of this world, transforming into countless avatars, merging them into my body. This scene was somewhat similar to what I saw when Tian Yunzi transmitted his divine technique to me. Wang Lin's eyes grew brighter. The Tao that Tian Yunzi practiced is the Tao of heaven's luck. Within his divine sense, there were countless Tian Yunzis, each one skilled in a different immortal art. At the time, with my cultivation, I could only see this, but now, looking back, within that divine sense space, each Tian Yunzi possessed not only immortal arts, but also different Taos. Wang Lin's expression subtly changed, shocked by the thought that had crossed his mind. He took a deep breath, recalling the scenes from the heavenly Fate Master's divine sense space, and his thoughts grew more resolute with each passing moment. Heavenly Fate Master. He possesses countless Tao. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed with excitement. He thought of his first immortal guard, who had spoken before being refined. I saw Master Tian Yun. He swallowed Sun Yin. Actually swallowed him whole. Everything completely swallowed. Wang Lin closed his eyes, and after a moment, he suddenly opened them with a decisive look in his eyes. He gazed at Yao Bingyun and murmured, "The path of cause and effect is all an illusion. According to my understanding of the third step of cultivation, all the heavenly Tao ultimately returns to the origin. What the origin of the path of cause and effect is, I don't know, but if I want to make the concept truly exist, it requires devouring. Devouring another's concept, understanding their cause and effect, comprehending their Tao thoughts, and transforming them into my own cause and effect concept." A cold light flashed in Wang Lin's eyes as he raised his right hand, pressing it toward Yao Bingyun's forehead. Devouring a concept means taking another's Tao as your own, thus fulfilling your own Tao. But the heavenly Tao is endless, and the great Tao is boundless. Once the path of devouring is opened, cultivation will lead to an endless cycle of devouring. In that case, it will be no different from the path Tian Yun has walked, a road from which there is no return. But if I don't devour, I will never truly comprehend cause and effect, and the path of cause and effect will remain an illusion, unable to truly exist. To devour, or not to devour. It was rare for Wang Lin to hesitate like this over something. It wasn't because he pitied Yao Bingyun, but because he was choosing his own Tao, seeking his path. This step was crucial. It was the choice for Tao attainment, the path that a cultivator follows in their life. Every person's Tao is different, shaped by their experiences and insights. The Tao transforms, and everything in the world can become Tao. Tian Yun once said that he has 3,600 incarnations, each belonging to a unique immortal technique. To me, these 3,600 incarnations represent the 3,600 paths he has devoured. Despite devouring so many Tao thoughts, he still hasn't attained Tao. After tens of thousands of years, he hasn't reached the third step. But without devouring, the concept of cause and effect cannot be explored and will remain vague. Seeking Tao without knowing the direction. Where can I find it? Wang Lin's face fluctuated between indecision and resolve, his eyes shifting between determination and confusion. His right hand hovered over Yao Bingyun's forehead, yet no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't press it down. As time passed, 3 days went by without Wang Lin noticing. The daylight changed outside the cave on Hengyun Mountain, and the day seemed to stretch out. In these 3 days, Wang Lin appeared to age drastically, as though 300 years had passed. During these 3 days, his body remained motionless, while his heart seemed like a furious wave, constantly surging, filling his entire being. Tao. What is Tao? Wang Lin murmured, repeating this question countless times during those 3 days. He seemed to be questioning himself, or perhaps searching for answers. The confusion in his eyes deepened. What is the Tao? In his search, Wang Lin did not notice that his primordial energy, which had started moving slowly, gradually accelerated. By the 3rd day, it almost formed a storm within his body, its movement frantic and fierce. It even began to leak outside his body, creating a vortex of energy around him. This vortex was black and white. The swirling black and white vortex seemed to represent yin and yang, distinct yet blended together. The vortex grew denser, more intense, its speed increasing. Yet, Wang Lin was completely unaware of this, absorbed entirely in his search for Tao. His nascent soul, too, transformed during this quest, gradually shedding its form as the ancient thunder dragon and returning to the same human form as before. He sat cross-legged, right hand raised, as if pointing towards something, yet never lowering his hand. It was as if this gesture symbolized his entire life, a life devoted to seeking Tao. As the first rays of sunlight fell on Qi Star in the morning, the mortals there awoke from their sleep, continuing their simple, ordinary lives. The cultivators, too, emerged from their meditation, drawing in the energy of the rising sun. But today, the spiritual energy of the heavens and earth was unusually vibrant, far more concentrated than usual. Almost all the cultivators sensed this and, filled with joy, began meditating and absorbing the energy. Gradually, some noticed that facing northeast during their meditation brought much denser spiritual energy. Soon, cultivators started rising into the air, heading toward the northeast. To the northeast of Qi Star lay Hengyun Mountain, where numerous cultivators had already gathered, meditating as if in worship. A mere hour of meditation there could equal several days of normal practice. The cauldron on Hengyun Mountain, at this moment, was transformed by the very essence of heaven and earth. On the mountaintop, black and white energy intertwined, forming a yin-yang fish symbol. From a distance, the contrasting black and white stood out sharply against the blue sky, like a meticulously crafted painting, leaving all who witnessed it deeply shaken at the core of their being. This shock came from the soul, spread to the nascent soul, blended into the essence spirit, and permeated the physical body. It felt as if a strange force was contained within it, drawing everyone into its grasp, unable to break free. What is Tao? At that instant, every cultivator within the Azure Spirit Star heard this phrase echoing from their very souls, reverberating like an ancient, worn voice. This voice carried the weight of a life lived through countless experiences, yet also conveyed an unyielding pursuit, a reverence for the path of Tao. As it spread, every listener was struck as though by a thunderbolt, frozen in that moment. Their hearts and minds, unable to resist, involuntarily asked themselves, what is Tao? On the summit of Hengyun Mountain, around Wang Lin's body, the cave dwelling was blown away by the wind, crumbling into ash. The dust particles, sparkling in the light, scattered with the wind and vanished like mist into the vastness of heaven and earth. The entire cave dwelling disappeared, leaving only Wang Lin and the still unawakened Yao Bingyun by his side. Wang Lin's finger remained pressed gently against her forehead in the air. Above them, the black and white yin-yang fish symbol slowly spun in a circular motion, resembling the Taiji. The spiritual energy of Azure Spirit Star flowed in harmony with it, slowly rippling outwards. At this moment, if someone were to gaze upon Azure Spirit Star from space, they would see the entire planet enveloped in black and white, an awe-inspiring sight. Should a cultivator at the level of blood ancestor pass by, they would be stunned. This scene was known among second-step cultivators as the Dream Tao. Legend has it that in the beginning of heaven and earth, there was a mortal named Pingzu, who entered Tao through a dream, condensed the essence of ancient immortals, and left a heart of Tao that would endure for 10,000 years, bearing witness to the sun and moon. Wang Lin, at this moment, was immersed in a dream, lost in pursuit, confusion, and verification. It felt as though his body had detached from the material realm, slowly rising into the air, not as his essence spirit, but with his nascent soul still anchored in his body. What is Tao? In this strange state, Wang Lin felt his body slowly dissipating, merging with Azure Spirit Star, as though he himself had become the planet. In a dense forest, a massive 3-zhang-long python coiled its body and snatched a small beast that leapt by. The huge snake tangled the creature, and the sounds of breaking bones echoed as it prepared to swallow it whole. Suddenly, it froze, its large head raised to the sky. The coldness in its eyes faded, replaced by confusion. This is not Tao. With a sigh that seemed carried by the wind, the confusion in the snake's eyes vanished, replaced once more by a ruthless coldness. It devoured the small beast in one bite, its enormous body slithering away, disappearing into the distance.